So I'm told Felterize means welcome back in Gaelic. Who knows if I'm saying that right? If you know at home, Facebook me and let me know if Felterize is the right way to say that. Continuing on with our St. Patrick's Day celebration, we're going to tell you about the rich Irish culture that's right here in Phoenix. You may not even know about it. Joining me now is Janice Bryson, the co-author of Irish Arizona. We want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
Quite a bit of fun. A lot going on this morning, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Well, let's zero in specifically to your book, Irish Arizona, and why you decided to write it in the first place.
Well, the late Kathy Wood and I started the Irish Arizona Project, which is a nonprofit for us to study the Irish and research the Irish in Arizona, because that's an ethnic group in the Southwest that really has never been studied. And that's a result of a lot of our research.
Well, and that's a great point that you make, because we hear a lot about the Native American influences and the Hispanic influences into Arizona, but not so much about the Irish influences. So what was the Irish kind of role in Arizona, and how do we see that play out?
Well, they had many roles in Arizona. The Irish that came here, especially in the 1800s, the very first one actually came in 1775. Hugo O'Connor in the service of the King of Spain and founded Tucson. So we have a long history. But we had many that came here, particularly to the mining towns, because it was an opportunity for them to strike it rich, and if they didn't, they had all these people that need fed, need clothing, need supplies, and there were a lot of Irish entrepreneurs, and we especially had a lot of lawyers and politicians, which probably goes back to the Irish gift of gab. So.
All right. Some would say that I'm Irish then. Well, let's take a look at some of the images that you have in your book, and if you could just describe them for me, that would be awesome.
This is William and Ellen Brophy, that many of us that live in the Valley are familiar with Brophy
Prep.
The
Brophy Prep? Oh, okay.
Yes, right. And actually, William came and he joined his brother James in 1881 in Cochise County, and they dug Brophy well. And while they were digging it, one was manually digging it, and the other was up on top with binoculars and rifle watching for the marauding Apaches. So it was still in Indian danger at the time. And he founded the Bank of Douglas and the Bank of Bisbee. He and his brothers brought electricity and water to Bisbee, and then they did build Brophy Prep, so they were very influential in our state.
All right, let's take a look at this next picture, too. It's like history.
This is the
Cliff Notes versions, right?
Right. This is the Doc Martin drugstores. Doc Martin was born in Dublin and came here, had a drugstore in Yuma, and then he started 8 drugstores. And ironically, I found out when I was reading the book that when my family expanded their drugstores into Tucson, we bought their 8 drugstores. It was kind of like one Irishman to the other.
Okay. And then I think we have a couple more pictures, and then I want to kind of zero back into the Irish Cultural Center, because you will be participating in that. But this Murphy Hotel...
This is the Murphy Hotel. This is actually my great-uncle Dennis. He came in 1881, and his first job was actually hauling wood for the smelters there in the Globe area, but he prospered. He had a cattle ranch called the Wine Glass, 14 miles outside of Globe, and one of his last business ventures was building the Murphy Hotel. And this is actually a very famous picture, although I do have the original, if you can see the little tear in the corner of this one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it's looking on the TV screen, but second from left with a star is Bucky O'Neil, and this is a picture of his posse. Jim Black on the other side, on the end of him, is also from Ireland, and they actually chased the train robbers from Canyon Diablo 600 miles into Utah before they captured them. And of course, the statue in the square at Prescott is pretty much named after them.
Now, tell me, how is it that you were able to, compile all of these artifacts, if you will? I'm not sure what the date is to use that word, but you know, old pictures, history, and how did you find all of the time to research this and get all these stories?
Well, it was a project I really cared about and was close to my heart, and I actually went all over the state. I was at historical societies, historical foundations, small museums, and then I belonged to a lot of historical societies and told people I was writing the book, and they came to me with their family's information.
So it was an extension of your passion that already existed.
Right, yes it was.
Okay, all right. Well, lastly, what will you be doing at the Irish Cultural Center?
Well, in our great hall, which will be right outside where the dancers are, so that will be an exciting thing to see, we will also be presenting a presentation. We have a lot of pictures and stories and artifacts of the Irish in Arizona, kind of beginning with Hugo O'Connor up through the founding of Shamrock Dairy.
And lastly, if there's one thing that you would say to people that perhaps you think they've got a misconception or they just don't know about the Irish in Arizona, what would it be?
Well, the Irish in Arizona were much different than the ones that came during the years of what they call the famine, the potato crop failure. Most of them were poor and uneducated, and they stayed in the East in the tenements, etc. But the people that came, particularly in the 1880s, they were better educated, and they came out here to really make a better place. And they worked hard to contribute. The second governor of Arizona Territory was Irish, so we really contributed to the settling of making the territory a state.
All right. Interesting. Fascinating. This is a really fun show. Thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome.
And
my pleasure.
we want to let everybody know that Janice is going to be doing a presentation of the history, a much more expanded version of what we've just kind of shown you this morning, of the Irish in Arizona on March 12th at the Irish Cultural Center. And you can get Janice's book, Irish Arizona, at Barnes & Noble. And for more information, just head over to sonoranliving.com.